I'm Ernestine Dansby, and I've been at Trinity a very long time, maybe about, I guess, going nearly 50 years. I want to thank Jackie Wright for inviting me to participate here today, and I also want to thank Pastor Ed Jones for his allowing me to come on and have this celebration with everybody today. We want to talk a little bit about my experience. I started my journey after high school here at Wheatley High School in Houston here, and then I left Wheatley. I graduated from Wheatley, and then I decided to go to Texas Southern. I went to Texas Southern, and I graduated Texas Southern with a bachelor's and master's degree in chemistry. And my idea was to one day maybe go to medical school, and I did go to medical school for a little while. I went to medical school for about a year, and I thought, well, that's not for me. My dad would always tell us to try to get into something that you'd be independent, because I think my mother and father didn't want us to be dependent on them. I decided to teach school and also go to law school. I decided on a law school education, and I went to South Texas, go to school, teach in the day, and go to South Texas at night. And well, when I went to South Texas, we had a lot of changes. I wanted to take a leave of absence from HISD, and so I took a leave of absence, and I didn't have but 1 year, so I spent that last year at Texas Southern and graduated at Texas Southern. After graduating from Texas Southern, I passed the bar. I passed the bar the first time. Then I started working. I worked with another lawyer for a little while, Jesse Funches. He was a long-time lawyer here in Houston, and I worked there in that law firm for a little while. Then I decided to go on my own, to be my own boss, like my dad would tell me, to be your own boss. So started my own practice, and I have been practicing now for 40-some years. My practice is limited now to just probate work. And I think here at Trinity, we're seeing a lot of improvements and progress and opportunities. And I would remind everybody that in everything we have to be focused and remember our dreams and try to adhere to whatever we have to do in order to make our dreams come true.
Good morning. I was asked to speak about my journey to the bench. My name is Elaine Hubbard Palmer. I am professionally known as Elaine Palmer. I'm a native Houstonian, born and raised in 3rd Ward. I was born at Riverside General Hospital in 1965 to Tally and Juanita Hubbard. I did my preschool education at Bunnyland Academy, Toddler's World, and Stonecrest Academy. I attended HISD public schools. I attended and graduated from Lamar High School, University of Houston downtown, where I received my Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice, and Texas A&M School of Law, formerly known as Texas Wesleyan University School of Law, where I received my JD degree and I am a proud member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Sigma Chapter, Houston, Texas. I have encountered many firsts on my journey. In my family, I am the first to get a postgraduate degree and the first to enter politics as a politician. I embarked upon my campaign in the late 2011 for the 2012 election for the position of judge of the 215 Civil District Court in Harris County, Texas. For that, I had to travel all over Harris County, which is 660 square miles. I attended more than 100 churches, community events, and I had to have fundraisers to sustain the campaign. In May of 2012, I unseated an incumbent judge without the need of a runoff. I then had to continue campaigning for the November general election, at which I had to speak to not only Democratic groups, but also Republican groups, independent and swing voter groups. Public speaking was not a comfy place for me, but to do what I needed to do for the campaign, that became a new love. All of this was a God idea that was prayed for by my ancestors. And on November 6, 2012, I was elected to the position of judge of the 215th Civil District Court here in Harris County. That was divine order. And by God's grace, I've been reelected in 2016 and 2020. At the end of my 2020 term, I will be the first African American female to serve on the 215th Civil District Court in Harris County, Texas bench for more than 10 years, which will also be the first African American female to serve on the Harris County Civil District Court bench for that length of time. And while serving on the bench, most recently, a group of us decided that we wanted to do a prayer challenge. So we embarked upon Draw the Circle, a 40-day prayer challenge. From that, we learned new and interesting things about each other. And we also learned things professionally about one another. And upon completing that, I shared that experience with some friends of mine who in turn decided they wanted to embark upon that same journey. So we began in January of this year the Draw the Circle, a 40-day prayer challenge. This time with friends, the things that I learned from the first reading were totally different and some new aspects. We've completed that 40-day prayer challenge, and now we've started a new morning prayer challenge that we do, and we are using the book now called Fascinating Bible Studies on Every Parable, written by Dr. William H. Marty. Also here at Trinity, this year will be my 52nd year as a member of Trinity. I was baptized and sprinkled at the age of 5. I have had the great experience to have Sunday school teachers of Hazel B. Webster, Ernestine Dansby, UMYF leaders of A. Clark Williams Jr. and Velma Williams, and others here at the church who have poured great things into me. And with that, I want to say thank you all for paying attention to my story. Peace and blessings.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We're so grateful that you're here today. I'm Ed Jones, senior pastor here at Trinity United Methodist Church. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to say thank you for being here. I want to make sure we have people worshiping from everywhere. Let's see where all of our people are. In the chat, let us know what neighborhood or city that you are worshiping in today. If you are a first-time guest, Thank you for connecting with us this morning. We know that you could have connected with any church in the whole world, but you chose to be here today. Thank you for being here. Trinity, let's show our guests some love this morning by typing welcome in the chat. You'll see a button that pops up. It's the connection button. If you can fill that out, I will look forward to connecting with you. It's going to be an amazing day. We're blessed to have a guest preacher, Reverend Danielle Freelon. She is a native Houstonian, where her husband Damon and her son Dylan, they are a great family of God. They've been blessing churches and expanding the kingdom. Damon is serving at another United Methodist Church, and both of them are in the kingdom building business. Reverend Danielle have two advanced degrees of theology, a master's degree in theology from Dallas Theological Seminary, and she also has a master's of divinity from SMU. She is a powerful woman of God, and so many of our members already are great fans of this powerful preacher. And when she comes, let's show her some love. This is going to be during the 8 a.m. worship service. At 10 a.m., we'll have Bishop Bledsoe, and next week we'll have Joseph Anderson at 8 and 10. We look forward to you inviting people to experience our worship experiences, and it's always a blessing. Many of us know that we have a lot of things going on in the life of the church, and one of the things I want to make sure that we underscore, the Fresh Produce Mobile Mark, on March the 26th at from 10 to 1 o'clock. Please make sure that you come out and participate as we provide fresh produce to our community. We also want to make sure we have an opportunity to know that the Third Ward churches are gathering names so that we can make sure we get as many people as we can from our community, at least 50, to be pre-registered for the pre-screening for the dental event that will be April the 28th and 29th. And please, if you want more information, you can reach out to the church office or reach out to Diane Eigelhart. She will help us connect. We also want to make sure that everyone has had the blessing to see how God is moving in our midst. Some of you have had the opportunity to be at the ribbon cutting of Trinity Preparatory Academy. And believe me, it was a blessing to have all of the Texas Annual Conference personnel out with us, our district superintendent and assistant to the bishop, and Reverend Joe Daniels, who leads our All God's Children program. I'm wearing the t-shirt to remind us how important this spring break camp was. So some of you may have seen a video of the day that we had the ribbon cutting. If not, take a look at this.
It is an issue that the pandemic put into sharp focus for a lot of families, a lack of reliable child care for working parents. As parents or guardians return to work after COVID lockdowns or office closures, they found themselves scrambling for care. KPRC2's Sabira Rayford joins us now with one effort to help solve the issue for parents with few child care facilities nearby. Sabira.
Keith, Trinity United Methodist is now serving as a different kind of sanctuary. This new child care center is answering a lot of prayers.
Well, that's awesome.
Alicia Lewis has dedicated her life to education.
When schools do well, when children do well, communities do well.
She's the principal of Blackshear Elementary here in the 3rd Ward.
We are 100% economically disadvantaged, but that doesn't stop our kids from excelling.
2 years of children learning in a pandemic hasn't helped. Staff changes and an increase in need even has her taking on 2 roles this spring break.
I have a group of third graders that I'm working with that I'm trying to get to the master's level of performance.
She can't do it alone, and now parents in this community have more access to educational child care.
We are open for business.
The oldest church in this neighborhood has a new purpose. It's called the Trinity Preparatory Academy, a child care center for children ages 8 weeks to 12 years old.
It's $150 a week, and for those who do not have that means, we definitely want to make sure we provide scholarships for those who have a great need.
It's a godsend.
Nicole Lewis, a mother of 3, says for years, overnight jobs were her only option.
You know, I worked overnights because I wanted to be there with my son. Like, I wanted to make sure that I was with him during the day.
This community is changing the conversation around childcare.
It takes everyone working hand in hand to make sure that our scholars overcome obstacles and overcome their circumstances.
The program has room for around 75 children, and right now they're only 40% full. We're reporting live in 3rd Ward. Sabir Rayford, KPRC 2 News.
It was a blessing to experience that, and want to encourage you to please continue to pray for Trinity Preparatory Academy, the teachers, the director, the students, and the parents. We believe that we're going to make an impact in the future, and it's through your support, your prayers, that we're able to accomplish this. So give yourself a hand praise for all what God has done through Trinity United Methodist Church. But we want to make sure that we invite our our board chair of the Trinity Preparatory Academy, Ms. Gloria Hayes, to come and share some news about this week's spring break camp. Take a listen to this.
Good morning, Trinity family and friends. The Trinity Preparatory Academy Spring Break Camp was a great success. We would like to thank our children, the Methodist Conference, Pastor Jill, our community volunteers, our sister churches, Principal Lewis, and our church members for helping us provide a wonderful camp that included worship and praise every morning, a healthy breakfast, a structured day of art, music, literacy, and wellness. To cap off the day, our children were engaged with a group that called themselves the Armored Sports Christian Group. Here, the children played different games and made good use of our new playground equipment outside. The week ended with a special mission project whereby our children recorded video messages and made personal greeting cards to be shared with children that have fled their native country of Ukraine and are now being sheltered in Poland. The children were blessed and graced with the presence of Miss Irene, who is a native of Ukraine, whereby she brought artifacts and shared with the children about life in Ukraine as it is today during the war. Thank you.
I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything. I hear you singing, Phoenix. I hear you out there singing. Come on, let's sing it together. One big choir. I love you.
I love you, Jesus.
I worship and adore.
I worship and adore.
Come on, tell him. I just want to tell you.
Just want to tell you,
Lord, I love you.
Lord, I love you more than anything.
I like that. I like that. Come on, Phoenix. Let's make it personal. Sing it. Come on. I love you.
I love you, Jesus.
Come on, lift those hands and tell him, I worship and adore you.
I worship and adore you.
Just want to tell him.
Just want to tell you.
Tell him, Lord, I love you.
Lord, I love you more than anything.
Come on, Arizona. I think we can lift it up a little higher. Put some harmony on it. I love
you, Jesus.
Come personal. I worship and adore you.
I worship and adore you.
Just want to tell
Just
you.
want to tell you,
Oh,
Lord, I love you
I love you.
more than anything.
More than this life itself, Lord.
I love you, Jesus.
I worship and adore you.
I worship and adore you.
I've come to Arizona just to tell you.
Want to tell you,
But I love you.
Lord, I love you
I think we can go higher.
more than
I think we can lift him up higher.
I love you, Jesus. God, we worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, hey, we love you. We love you, Lord, more than anything. God, we love you. God, we worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, we love you. We love you more than anything. God, we love you. Oh God, we worship and adore you. If I had 10,000 tongues, I can't praise you enough. I love you, Lord. Oh God, we love you, Jesus. Oh God, we bow before your holy throne. Oh God, I'm so grateful. Thank you for loving me. I love you with my whole being. Oh God, I love you. I love you, Jesus. I worship. We worship and adore you, God. Thank you for loving me. I love you more than anything. I love you, Jesus. Oh God, we worship and adore you. You're sovereign God. You're holy God. We love you. We love you, Lord. We love you more than anything, oh God. More than anything. You gave your life for me, so I'll serve you for the rest of my days. More than anything. You gave your life for me. You love me unconditionally. When I don't deserve your grace, I don't deserve your mercy. You love me anyway. Lord, we love you more than anything. More than anything. More, God, we love you. We love you, Lord.
Good morning, Trinity family. Happy Founders Month. What a joy it is to celebrate 157 years of ministry. Thank you, Pastor Ed and Sylvia Jones, the leadership of this great church, and the whole Trinity family for allowing me to share in this celebration. If you have your Bibles, turn with me or scroll to the book of Numbers, chapter 14. And on your way there, I confess that the liturgist in me really wants to read chapters 13, 14, and 15, as they are key to grasping this book, and they offer yet another glimpse of God's faithfulness. But I don't want to lose an invitation to come back to Trinity. So we will limit our reading to verses 1 through 4 and then pick up at verses 20 through 24. Reading from the NIV translation, the text reads, "That night, all the members of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, 'If only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?' And they said to each other, 'We should choose a leader and go back to Egypt.'" Picking up at verse 20, "The Lord replied, 'I have forgiven them as you asked,'" speaking of Moses. "Nevertheless, as surely as I live, and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it." Let's pray. Ever faithful God, by your word and spirit, guide us now, that in your light we see light, in your truth we find freedom, and in obedience we discover your peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. "In the Wilderness" is the Hebrew title of the book we have named Numbers. The Hebrew title is taken from the first verse of the book and an accurate description of its setting. Numbers narrates the Israelites' experiences in the wilderness following 1 year after God's miraculous delivery of the people from slavery in Egypt. It is in the wilderness the people learn through trial and many, many errors to trust their deliverer as they move toward their destiny. It is in the wilderness they now find themselves right on the edge of that destiny, entering the promised land of Canaan. Our morning text is so rich with suspense because we enter their story wondering, what will they do now that their hopes and dreams, the hopes and dreams of their ancestors, now that that is right within their reach. The opening of chapter 14 reads like we've entered a town hall meeting underway in the wilderness of Paran. And like many town hall meetings, it's held in the evening after a long work day and possibly an even longer commute. The mood is tense, the people are testy. The meeting room is filled with murmuring, complaints, and likely the smell of very bad coffee. See, these wilderness constituents are disgruntled with their leaders, Moses, Aaron, and the Lord, because they've just received a report from their representatives. These representatives were sent out to explore the new land, a good land that they'd heard about their whole life. They had been waiting to claim, land promised to them and their ancestors. And in a shocking twist, all but 2 of the representatives come back to the people with a scary, bad report. That report said, the land is good, exceedingly good. It's fruitful, and yes, it does flow with milk and honey. But it's not a vacant land. It's not ready for immediate move-in. No, the cities are populated and huge, and so are its people. The people are big, giant people, much stronger than us. I mean, we looked at them and looked at us, looked back at them and thought, these big people will crush us like insects underfoot. I mean, we looked like grasshoppers to them and to us. No, the challenges we would meet are far too great. We cannot move forward. We urge you to oppose any motion that calls for us to take this land. Well, at this point, there is an absolute uproar. The people get loud, there is crying, there's weeping. So great is the commotion in the room that it's hard to hear one more representative. The representative who offered yet another view. Caleb, speaking for the minority report, had to quiet the room and said, in essence, "Sí se puede." Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can do this. Let's move forward at once. Our time is now. We are well able to overcome the challenges ahead of us with God's help. But by then, it was just too late. The crowd was already so riled up, they couldn't hear. You could tell how the final vote would swing once the people lined up to ask questions. You know the ones. The questions that are really not seeking answers, but seeking to sow seeds of discord and doubt. Questions like, could someone explain to the community why the Lord is bringing us into this land to kill us? And have any of the leaders thought about what will happen to the most vulnerable of us in the land, our families, our children? And by last count, were there not enough cemeteries in Egypt that we had to come out here to die? After the air had been polluted with the winds of distrust, the majority opinion swayed the collective thought. And instead of making plans to go forward, to claim the promised land, they made plans to go back to Egypt, back to the way things used to be, back to the comfort of familiarity, even if it was the captivity in Egypt. In short, they voted no to God's divine yes. And they did so because of fear. Fear of the task before them, fear of the size and strength of the obstacles ahead, fear of failure, and how that failure would damage their and God's reputation. The fear factors go on and on. And to us, thousands of years removed, it is so easy to shake our head at this wilderness community and pile on a lot of should-haves and ask, why didn't theys? But we can't really be too hard on them. For sure, they are not our models, but they are surely our mirrors. You see, they reflect our own fears and our own angst when journeying in the wilderness. As friends like them, we have also been in the wilderness for some time, especially these past 2 years. Black and brown communities have not only been in the wilderness of a single pandemic, we have journeyed through multiple pandemics. A health pandemic that disproportionately affected and took the lives, so many lives of black and brown people. An economic pandemic which sent up flares announcing the need and the right for all people to earn a living wage. A flare announcing the widening income gap between white and non-white communities. And of course, a racial pandemic. Seen across videos, displayed across the world, the unjust and often arbitrary violence inflicted on black bodies. Yes, we are well acquainted with the wilderness. We are also well acquainted with fear, the kind that can breed hopelessness and a fear that can keep our feet stuck in cement, unable or unwilling to move when God says it's time to move. And now we find ourselves right on the edge of leaving one wilderness experience, a health pandemic, and we have a decision to make. If you listen very closely, there is a growing chorus of voices who say, if not with their words, with their actions, let's not go forward. Let's go back. Let's get things back to normal. Let's pick up where we left off before February 2020. Let's go back to business as usual. But church, God is calling us forward. God is calling us forward to be the church on the other side of right now. And we too have received a report about what's on the other side of this wilderness. We've received a report about the church on the other side of right now. And in summary, that report says to thrive, even to survive, the church must adapt. The church must change. And I know, like you, I find change scary. Changes look like giants, and our resources in the face of change appear as tiny grasshoppers. But we must, if we muster the courage to listen to the report about the church on the other side, we will hear that it states we must creatively and authentically engage a whole new generation of people who have left or who never felt connected to Jesus Christ or his church. The report about the church on the other side says we can no longer continue to do things because we've always done them this way, but we must be open to where the Spirit leads. A land of new ministry opportunities, new partnerships, new ways of imagining worship, new ways of using our space, new ways of expressing our core beliefs. The report about the church on the other side states that the church will be in fierce competition with other charitable institutions for giving dollars. And therefore, we, the church, must have clarity about its God-given mission and discipline to use those resources only to further that mission. The report about the church on the other side must invest in the next generation of disciples of Jesus Christ, insisting on excellence in children and student ministry. And to thrive, the report says that the church must have an outward focus, keeping in step with the shifting demographic of its neighboring communities and sharing its resources to meet those needs. I know the report about the church on the other side of the wilderness is daunting. And for many, moving forward to be that church is too fearful. The challenges are too great. It is so much easier to romanticize the past and go back to it. There is indeed a cost to that choice. Hearing the Israelites' questions and complaints, God, their divine leader, responded and even acquiesced. The Lord replied, "Not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it." As I read God's response, I am reminded of how careful we must be about how we complain and what we ask God for, because God just may give it to us. And God did just that. They didn't want to go forward into the promised land, and they didn't. They didn't go back to business as usual either. Instead, they wandered. They wandered in the wilderness for the next 40 years until that first generation, the generation that had such a rich history with God, the generation that had a firsthand experience to God's deliverance and protection and provision and faithfulness, the generation who received God's laws and who God claimed as God's very own people, until that generation all died. Now I know, while our modern ears hear this and we bristle at the harshness of the consequence, but friends, there is good news. The good news is that God is forgiving. Despite their grumbling and complaining and disobedience and an unwillingness to recognize that God is so much greater than their greatest challenges, God says to them, to Moses, "I have forgiven the people." The good news is that God is also faithful. God did not walk back the promise to give the land to the covenant people. Rather, the land was given to their children, the next generation. He says, "But my servant Caleb, I will bring into the land. His descendants, they will possess it." Now I know there is a lot to take in this text. Rarely will you find this passage in kids' Sunday school coloring pages or packets. But as the Apostle Paul wrote to the church in Corinth about this passage, these things happened to them as an example, and they were written for our instruction. Indeed, this is a cautionary message for individuals who need the courage to move when and where the Lord says move. It is also a cautionary message and a sobering one for the church as we discern where and how the Lord is leading us next. Will we move forward and face the challenges of the church on the other side of right now? Or will we stay in place singing that old spiritual, "We shall not be moved"? Friends, even if we decide to do nothing, I was reminded just last week that doing nothing really is doing something. Last week, our staff went on a field trip to tour and to learn more about one of our covenant ministry partners in South Houston. And the director of the ministry shared a PowerPoint presentation that listed a complex of 10 to 12 different ministries that share space in their facility. Ministries that meet a host of needs of the families and students in this low-income and very underserved community. And there was one slide I just could not get out of my head. At the top of that slide was an icon for the church that was there. And underneath that church were the 10 to 12 different ministries that now exist in this space. And at the end of the slide deck, the icon for the 10 to 12 ministries were still there, but the one for the church had disappeared. And a curious staff person asked the question, well, what happened to the church that was at the top? And the director said the church eventually closed, but the ministries were still able to meet in its building. When he said that, I was so out of sorts for the rest of the field trip. I couldn't get the imagery out of my head. And along the tour, when we stopped at the community garden built for the community, I pulled the director aside privately and I asked him again, okay, what really happened to the church? And he said, candidly, they didn't want to move beyond these walls. They developed a bunker mentality and walled themselves in from the community. And that evening I wrote in my journal, the church closed, but the ministry continued. The church closed, but the ministry God was calling them to do, the ministry that God was calling them forward into, went on. It was such a vivid picture of God doing ministry anyhow. God doing ministry not with us, but despite us, despite our fear, despite our unwillingness to move when God says move. Trinity family, you have such a rich 157-year history with God. In these 157 years, you have had a front row seat to God's faithfulness, God's provision, God's protection in and out of the wilderness. So I ask you, where is God calling you next? Where has God given you the pen and the paper to write the next chapter of your history? How has God uniquely positioned and resourced you to further your disciple-making mission, not just for this next generation, but the 2 or 3 to come? What reports are you listening to? Are they the ones that encourage you to act on God's divine yes? Or are they the ones that cause you to retreat and say, no, we cannot do it? Are you moving forward in faith or just wandering with the wrong kind of fear? I say the wrong kind of fear because as I reflect on this passage and the decisions in front of us, I believe there is one fear that should move the church forward. And that's a fear of missing out. FOMO, F-O-M-O. Not that anxiety about missing out on what your friends are posting online, but a holy fear of missing out. Missing out on what God seeks to do in and through this great body of believers. A holy fear of missing out on the opportunity of seeing God take our little and multiply it into much. A holy fear of missing out on witnessing the Spirit interrupt cycles of decline and move us into vibrant expressions of fruitful ministry. A holy fear of missing out on the bridges that God will use us to wedge into our communities, reminding them of the width and depth and breadth and height of God's love for us. A love that cannot be erased by our unfaithfulness or brokenness. A holy fear of missing out on experiencing God's resurrection power. A power that did not run out at the empty tomb of Jesus, but a power that is still raising dead things to life. Dead hopes, dead dreams, dead careers, dead plans, dead relationships, and one day, these dead bodies of ours. This is the future into which God is calling us to move forward. The challenges that lie ahead are great, yes. But the same God who calls us forward is the one who promises to be with us along the way. So the invitation is ours to go at once, knowing that with God's help, we can surely do this. In the name of God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Wasn't that a powerful lesson from that preacher? She laid it out. And we all are challenged to make sure that we'll be about those disciples that's moving into the promised land, to move into the next generation, to do everything that we can to advance God's kingdom, and that it's not about us. I want to make sure we give that preacher a hand praise. If you've made the decision that you want to make sure you take the next step with Jesus Christ, you'll see a button that props up there. We want to encourage you to fill that information. We want to connect with you and get you to connect with the Trinity United Methodist Church. If you want this to be your church home and you want to be empowered in your discipleship wherever you are, we want to make sure that you know that we desire to become a better church with you. And please hit the button. If you have see some things that you want to participate, if it's the Mission of Mercy dental agreement or advancement, please sign up. You'll see a button that pops up there. We want to make sure that we get as many people signed up as possible. We also desire, if you want to give to the church, and you know God has moved in your heart to ensure that Trinity United Methodist Church continue to advance God's kingdom, you'll see a button that pops up to give you an opportunity to give at whatever level. We are challenging all of our members and family and friends to sow into Trinity at an increment of $157 or $15,700, whatever it is. If it's $1.57, sow that into the kingdom, and I trust that the Lord will multiply that so that we can continue to serve Him. Please receive this benediction, and if you'd like to, there'll be a button that invites you to the fellowship hall where you can have some more conversation with us. Receive this benediction. May God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit be with you both now and forevermore. In Jesus' name, amen.